Morning, my dear students. Today we are going to do chapter number 6, tissue, and the topic which we are going to discuss is permanent tissue in plants. So children, I'll be giving 2 questions in this video and you need to write down the answers to those questions. The questions will be related to the topic or the explanation which I will be doing in this video. Now, the important thing is that the questions may appear at any point in between the video. So, you need to watch the video till the end and carefully listen to the explanation. So, before going to the explanation, let us recall what you have done in the previous class. So, in the previous class, the difference between the tissues of plant and the animals has been discussed. That means why the plant tissues and the animal tissues are different. And also the different types of the tissues present in plants has been just briefly discussed, that the plant tissues are divided into mainly 2 types, that is meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. The meristematic tissues are made up of the cells which has the ability to divide and it is active throughout its life. So the meristematic tissues are made up of cells which are living and they are dividing. They have dense protoplasm and may have few or no vacuoles at all, and they are thin walled. That means the cell wall is thin. Depending on the regions where the meristematic tissues are found, it can be of 3 types, that is apical meristem, then the lateral meristem and intercalary meristem. Apical meristem is present in the growing tips of stem and roots, and it increases the length of the stem and the root. Then the lateral meristem helps in increasing the girth of the stem, and intercalary meristem is present or found in the nodes. So now let us look at the objectives of today's class. So the objectives are to study about the permanent tissue, to understand the types of permanent tissue, that is the simple permanent tissue and the complex permanent tissue, to study about the structure, function and location of the permanent tissues like the parenchyma, Collenchyma and Sclerenchyma, and also to discuss the function, then structure and location of epidermis and cork, and to understand and explain xylem and phloem tissue, which is a complex permanent tissue. Fine. So now let us go to the explanation part. So you can see the flow chart of the plant tissues. It is broadly divided into 2 types, meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. Meristematic tissue is again divided into apical meristem, then lateral meristem and intercalary meristem. Permanent tissue is divided into simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. Simple permanent tissue is divided into parenchyma, Collenchyma and Sclerenchyma, and complex permanent tissue is divided into xylem and phloem. So let us first discuss about the simple permanent tissue, and the simple permanent tissue which we are going to discuss is the parenchyma. So first of all, let us understand what is permanent tissue. So what do you think that what happens to the cells which is formed by the meristematic tissues? Those cells take up a specific role and they lose the ability to divide and they become permanent. And the process of taking up permanent shape, size and function is called differentiation. Cells of the meristematic tissues differentiate to form different types of permanent tissues. So the first type of permanent tissue is parenchyma tissue. So the parenchyma tissues are the layer of cells which forms the basic packing cells, and the cells are unspecialized with thin walls. The cells are living and they are loosely arranged. That means they have large space between the cells. The intercellular space is large. In some situation, the parenchyma tissues contain chlorophyll and then they are called Sclerenchyma. In aquatic plants, the parenchyma tissue has large air cavities and it is called Parenchyma. The main functions of parenchyma tissue is to help in diffusion of gases, store food in stems and roots, and regulate ions. The Sclerenchyma helps in performing photosynthesis, and the Parenchyma gives buoyancy to the plants and helps in floating. The parenchyma cells are found in many places throughout the plant body. So the next type of permanent tissue, that is simple permanent tissue, is Sclerenchyma. The Sclerenchyma tissues are a type of permanent tissues which is made up of cells which are living. They are elongated and irregularly thickened at the corner. That means the walls, the cell wall of the Sclerenchyma cells are not thin, but they are thickened, but it's thickened only at the corner, and they have very little intercellular spaces. They can be spherical, oval or polygon in shape. The main function of Sclerenchyma tissue is to provide structural strength, mechanical strength, and provide flexibility, which allows the plant to bend in the wind, but even after bending they do not break easily. So they are found in leaf stalks below the epidermis or the outer layer of cells in young stems. The third type of permanent tissue is Sclerenchyma. So this type of tissues contains cells which are dead and they have lignified cell walls. That means the walls are deposited by a chemical substance called lignin. The cell wall is thick and there is no intercellular spaces. The cells are long and narrow. The main function of Sclerenchyma tissue is to provide mechanical and structural support and allow conduction of water. Lignin prevents easy tearing, makes plants part hard and stiff, and it is used to protect other cells. The Sclerenchyma tissues are found mainly in the stems around vascular bundle, in the veins of leaves, and in the hard covering of the seeds and nuts. Epidermis is a single layer of cell and it is usually flat. Often the outer and the side walls are thicker than the inner walls. If we observe the epidermis under the microscope, we will be able to see some small pores present on the epidermis, and these pores are called stomata. The stomata is enclosed by two kidney-shaped cells called the guard cells, and the function of stomata is to exchange gases in the atmosphere and help in the transpiration of the plant. In some plants like desert plants, the epidermis is coated or covered by a waxy coating called a waxy coating of cutin, which is a chemical substance and it has a waterproof quality. The function of epidermis is to protect the plant. It protects the plant against water loss, mechanical injuries, and the invading parasitic fungi. It also regulates the exchange of gas. It secretes metabolic compounds, and especially the roots have several root hairs which helps in the absorption of water and mineral nutrients. The epidermis is usually located or found throughout the plant body. It covers the roots, the stems, leaves, and the flowers of plants. So children, here comes the first question. The first question is, compare the characteristic of parenchyma and Sclerenchyma tissue. That means you need to write the difference between the parenchyma and the sclerenchyma tissue in terms of its characteristics. Okay, so let us move on. Cork cell. As plants grow older, the outer protective tissues undergoes certain changes. A strip of secondary meristem replaces the epidermis, and the outer cells are completely cut off from the other parts of the plant. This forms several layers of cells which constitute the cork. Cells of the cork, as I mentioned, are dead and are compactly arranged without any intercellular spaces. They also have a substance called suberin in their walls that makes them impervious to gases and water. Cork cell is also related to the protection of the plant. Different types of cells which we have discussed till now is made up of one type of cell. But the complex permanent tissue which we are going to discuss is made up of more than one type of cell. So the complex permanent tissue usually forms the conductive system in the plant. It helps in the conduction of the materials inside the plant body, and also it constitutes a vascular bundle. It is because of the complex permanent tissue that the plants are able to survive in the terrestrial environment, and xylem and phloem are the types of complex permanent tissue. The xylem is made up of tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fiber. Phloem is made up of sieve cells, sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. So let us discuss the structure of the xylem. Xylem consists of tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. Tracheids and vessels have thick walls and many are dead cells when they are mature. Tracheids and vessels are tubular in structure, and this allows them to conduct the material, that is the water and the minerals, vertically. The xylem parenchyma usually stores food, and the xylem fibers are mainly supportive in nature. So this is one type of complex permanent tissue, and phloem is another type of complex permanent tissue which is made up of 5 elements, that is the sieve cells, sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. Sieve tubes are tubular cells with perforated walls. Phloem transport food which is prepared in the leaves by the process of photosynthesis to different parts of the plant. Xylem transports the water and mineral in only one direction, but phloem can transport the food in different direction. Except the phloem fibers, all other phloem cells are living cells. So this is what we have for today's class. Now let us summarize what we have learned in today's class. So we have learned that the permanent tissues are divided into 2 types, simple and complex. Simple permanent tissues are parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Epidermis protects the different parts of the plant and helps in exchange of gases and transpiration. Cork cells form the outer layer of both roots and woody stem tissue, where they serve as natural barrier of water loss. The complex permanent tissue consists of xylem and phloem. So here comes the next question, question number 2. The question is, what is the function of cork cell? So I have already explained about the cork cell. Write down the answer in your copy. So I have given 2 questions. Write down both the answers in the copy. So this is all for today's class. Thank you and have a great day.